Hello, hello. My name is Avalisa Ellicott. I am the Vice President of TAVA, and I am here today. We are here today to have a town hall. I am going to bring our other board members up, and we'll start having a conversation. Get ready for a town hall. Get super pumped. First, I will bring up our Executive Director, Cassandra Williamson. Welcome, Cassandra. Next, I will be bringing up our secretary. I don't know why I always try and say treasurer, but it's secretary. Our secretary, Heather O'Malley. Hello, hello. How excited are we about today's town hall?
I'm here.
And that's fair. That's fair. Cassie, you're muted. I was like, why can't I hear Cassie talking? She's muted.
She's talking to herself. Still muted. There you go.
I love to talk to myself. I'm the best audience there is.
It happens. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, well, anyway, what I was saying was, oh yeah, you did it over there. Good, thanks. In our messaging system there, because Ann tried to log in on our Zoom account.
She's got it. So thank you all for being here. We see you here. I do want to encourage everyone to chime in the comments. We're seeing them, and we will be responding to the comments as they come when we do have time. So to get us started, I would love to pass it over to Cassandra to introduce our first guest.
Okay, Dr. Lange, I'm going to bring you up top. Okay, you ready? And let me see if I can make your screen larger. I'm going to put yours over in the middle. Ah, there. Good. I'm learning how to use this. Avalisa is a great teacher.
Learning technology.
Anyway, everyone, most of us know who Dr. Tiffany Lange is. And I mean, just the reputation that goes way beyond everything. So she is the person who came up with a thing that I kept lecturing on and talking on called trans-affirming narrative exposure therapy, which morphed into different things and became, different parts of the things within the VA and the Pride in All Who Serve program. She's got her hand in a lot of things, very respected things all across the country. And everywhere I went across the country, someone would say, "Oh, you know Dr. Lange?" And I said, "Yeah." Anyway, tonight we're going to be talking about the collaborative effort we're doing with her with the peer-to-peer guidebook, and just give us a rundown about it, where things stand, how things are going, and all that kind of stuff. And we just, look forward to this conversation. So how are things going?
Oh, well, you flatter me, and I very much appreciate you. So thank you for having me here tonight. So it was a number of months ago, Cassandra. I think the first time we had this conversation may have been March or April this year. We were dialoguing about some of the things that may be beneficial to TAVA. A number of you all know that it is a personal and professional priority for me to advocate, kind of figure out like how do we innovate and provide like useful resources. And through that conversation, met with a number of people at TAVA, kind of settled on the idea of a peer-to-peer guidebook that can, help support, inform some of the conversations as you all are, guiding and supporting individuals as they're navigating resources, kind of strengthening identity. And we settled on the title Transformative Mentoring. So it is going to be a guidebook for gender diverse and transgender support groups. I have spent quite a bit of time writing, a lot of the background, the research, but most importantly, prioritizing as many gender diverse voices as possible. So there's a number of individuals who have volunteered to spend some time with me, share their perspectives about what it was like to participate in peer support groups, as well as what it was like to lead peer support groups. So the hope, as we're kind of moving towards completion of the guidebook, is that as people are reading it, it feels like you're reading it through a lens of your experience. It's helpful in kind of navigating. And we are about, I want to say 90% done with it. I'm still working on a number of kind of the worksheets. I'm still meeting with a number of gender diverse veterans who are providing their perspectives. If anyone tonight wants to lend their voice to it, absolutely reach out to me. You can be anonymous or I'll cite you. Whatever your preference is. I want it to be as collective and useful as possible. And then once it's completed, I'll have a number of people from TAVA read it, make sure that, it passes your all stamp of approval. And then we'll move towards publishing it. And I want to be very clear that any potential proceeds that do come will go directly back to TAVA. That was the agreement that we prioritized and made sure to solidify at the start, that everything about this guidebook is for the benefit of TAVA and making sure that you all can continue on your amazing mission. So my role is just to write it down and capture it in the background.
And you asked people to get in touch with you because you did want it to be collaborative. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
My email address is a really great way to do it. So it's lange.psyd@gmail.com. So lange.psyd@gmail.com is a great way to connect with me, or LinkedIn. I mean, that's simple too.
Great. Oh my gosh. Yes. I think I'm unmuted now. So I think, Dr. Lange, we actually met back in January, the very first time. I think that's
Was it?
Yeah, it was January.
What year is this? What's happening?
It was January when you reached out to me and said, I think we ought to have a conversation. And it was shortly after that we did. And then it just took off.
Yeah, it's been really exciting. It's been awesome to hear kind of the interest. I do have to give credit to the title to Stacy. I saw a comment in the chat. I know it's a fun title.
It really is. Stacy did a great job with that, and we love it. So, oh my gosh! So you say about 90% into this, and you're working on some kind of worksheets and guides. I think you mentioned one time videos too, but that comes after you get all the publication stuff done, right?
Yeah. So the hope is that, once the guidebook is completed and completely vetted by you all, pun not intended, but it works.
We appreciate those
then we can kind of focus on what are some small little kind of videos or training little blurbs just to help people feel a little bit more kind of comfortable with it.
Right.
But we'll work on that as we make it available.
Yeah. So what's your timeline? What do you think the timeline is at this point?
Good question. So I think it would look at also what would be the timeline for publication. Yes. I think on kind of my end, I have 2 more obsessive writing days, maybe 3. I hyper focus and the world just kind of blends away.
In other words, you don't want an email from me?
Huh?
In other words, you don't want an email from me on those 3 days?
I have to completely unplug, phone on airplane mode. I have Disney Orchestra on the back. That's my jam. That's what I do.
Right. I love communicating with people, so I'll reach out and just hound them to death. Everybody tells me that. Cassandra, slow down.
Yeah, I have a short attention span, so I have to lock in.
Right.
And then I do want to make sure it's read cover to cover, word to word, by a number of you all, so that you can give me your harshest criticism, and make sure that it feels representative of your all's voices. And then from there, it's, I guess, whatever the turnaround is for getting it published. I
know that talking about your book across the country as we took TAVA on the road, I have to give a big shout out to Heather Owens out in Walla Walla. She wants to buy a bunch of them, put in bags to give to the veterans in her LGBT programs, her trans veterans and other people in the LGBT programs. I just said, Heather, go for it. I'm sure there will be no objections from us. We'll let you know when.
What a nice like support for TAVA as well.
Yeah.
Right. So that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to write the second book with me?
This time I'll take runner up. I'll take the back seat. You can be lead.
Well, we've got some really good authors here in this group right now. One of them is Heather. She has several published books. Hi, Heather.
Hi, I just got the cover for the second book I sold this year. It looks awesome.
That's cool. I love it.
As a complete aside as to, what Dr. Lange is talking about.
I know, but
but now I'm curious about yours.
Yeah, come on now. You got to talk. Tell us.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the first book coming out in June is Transitioning Home. It's about a trans veteran. Specifically, it's a soldier in Iraq who gets injured in combat and then has time to think. And that always goes the way it does.
Yeah.
And they realize they're trans. And first, the very first appointment, they ask, hey, how can I get rid of this?
Right.
Because, that's never happened.
Right. So I'm reading Avalisa's comment over here. Let's pivot to Dr. Liz. Dr. Lange, come on.
So yeah, it gets into a lot of that shared experience that veterans have, especially with their own transitions.
Yeah.
And
I see
because that's a very, from everything I've seen and experienced, it's a very different transitioning experience.
Yeah.
Because we have the VA as kind of central to a lot of that.
Oh,
and therefore, Dr. Lange's book sounds like it'd be really helpful in helping people deal with some of those things.
Great segue.
It's like
so I'd love to bring on Liz. Dr. Lange, if you could stick around, I'd love for us all to have a conversation after, if that sounds good.
Sure.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Cassie, if you would not mind the next intro.
Hello, Liz.
I put you there so that you could give the intro.
I know, but I'd like to see her face up there. No.
Give the intro,
Hello.
Cassie. Hello.
This is very conversational. If y'all haven't figured this out, I like to talk and just ramble on. So Avalisa's there to keep my mic under control. Anyway, this is Liz. And Liz, will you pronounce your last name for me again?
Saltigerald.
Saltigerald.
That's what I thought. That's what I guessed. But I was like, I am not saying it out loud.
No. So tell me about, you've got a research project coming up for your master's program. And I met Liz. Liz was the very first veteran care coordinator I met when I started testing out the TAVA tour idea. I went down into Florida, and she's the very first one I met down in Tampa. Mm-hmm. And oh my gosh, I met with her and Nancy Jones.
Yes.
Yes. So it was like, oh, amazing. This person's just so much full of energy, and she's got a lot of love. Oh my God.
It was fun.
It was fun. So it's so exciting to have you here and let you talk about what you're working on and how we can assist you.
So I'm asking for assistance because eventually it's actually going to help our veterans. I'm doing my master's program. First of all, I am an Air Force medic. I have been in the Air Force for 20 years and going. I'm also a wound care specialist, wounds, ostomies, and continence at the San Francisco VA now. I was in Tampa, but I decided to kind of go west a little bit. So I'm in my final stages of my master's in nursing, and I have always kind of been focused on our LGBTQ plus veterans. But this specifically because of the Secretary's announcement in 21 that VAs would be providing gender affirming surgeries. I decided, as San Francisco, Dr. Joseph is putting together the proposal to submit to be one of the facilities, because it's not automatic on who's going to get it. And I thought it would be a good opportunity then to focus my project on post-operative care. And so the question that I am setting out to answer is, how can education on gender transition and post-operative wound care better prepare nurses to co-create meaning and better outcomes for veterans undergoing gender-affirming surgery? So that is the focus, or what we call in nursing the PICO question, right? The population, the outcomes, the comparison, time frame, all that's the interventions. And let's be honest, not the VA has always had a stigma that, well, and you know, right? It not having usually the most equitable healthcare. We're working on it, but I want to train my nurses. I have a group of 40 wound treatment associates that are certified in wound care. And when I suggested my prior plastic surgeons in Tampa that, don't forget, you've got an LGBT veteran care coordinator here with wound care, and the surgeon says, you're assuming that our surgeries are going to fail. And I said, you're assuming that you're not going to cut open into a veteran to do this gender affirming surgery. So how do these nurses, right? Because most of us come in and we never leave the VA. So nobody has ever been exposed to that immediate post-op or having a veteran who just underwent surgery and having to take care of them, much less to know how to do it. And I want to bring as much decency in the care of our veterans. So this is my project. And so the questions, I guess, that I would like is that, it's more of how, let's see, I had these questions written down. Basically, what is important that our transgender veterans going into surgery, that are going to be going into surgeries, what are some of their fears? What do they know? What is the knowledge base prior to going into a surgery? What are their expectations after? And basically just, I want to make San Francisco the standard of care, okay? And so, and by having my 40 wound treatment associates trained, they all come from all different areas, outpatient clinics, inpatient. They will be helping me then put that training out to their peers. So, but that's the gist of my project.
All right. So how far into it are you at this point, and how quickly do you need responses?
I'm halfway through, and so anything that I can have would be great. I know that some of the biggest roadblocks for any transgender patient really is going to be the discrimination that is still experienced,
Right,
and the lack of knowledge on transgender care from the providers, whether it be a doctor, nurse. I was just made aware of an instance in New Hampshire that a veteran came in with the drains from urology still, and he or she, I don't know what, to be honest, I don't know what gender, but that's neither here nor there, because urology turned away this veteran saying, no, we don't do that here. And so when this was mentioned, I was like, oh my gosh, clearly they don't know the directive, right? Because the directive says, yes, we're not doing the surgeries, but our veterans get the care up to and immediately after. So,
yeah.
And these are the kind of things that I would like to avoid as much as possible.
Yeah. That's great, because so would it be helpful to get together with a separate group or separate meeting for you with some veterans at some point in the next couple of weeks?
That would be awesome.
Okay. So any of our veterans out here listening or participating, or actually watch this thing a little bit later, if you're interested in talking with Liz about this and the concerns that you have, I don't want us to go into addressing all the questions right here, right now for that, because this would go on all night.
I know, right? So I am going to put my email in the chat box.
Okay.
Because I'm also going to be presenting this in April at a Military and Veteran Partnerships Conference, because two of my other colleagues in the class want to. One is from Milwaukee and the other one is from Denver. And so we're going to collaborate in how, so we start this at a facility where we're hoping we're going to be performing these, but then how do we care for those veterans that they, may come to their closest VA, which Denver would be San Francisco, and they go to Denver. How do those nurses then continue that care? And so I'm trying to expand that training to those VAs where there isn't a surgical option.
So have you reached out
Liz,
to...
we got a very interesting comment that I want to pop on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Micah says, I got no care prior or after surgery.
What? That is a directive. You're supposed to.
Yeah.
That is a legitimate patient complaint or congressional.
Take it to your VCC at your facility.
Yes.
Show them exactly what's going on and what you've experienced. And then if you get no satisfaction there, call me.
I think so often we experience the thing where every VA is going to be completely different. I know for me, I went to one VA, won't name any names, but I went to a VA and I struggled for care. I struggled to receive care. And then my husband and I moved, and I drug my feet when it came to like registering at the VA, and they put me in the women's health clinic, which was new for me. And I was like, what, me in the women's health clinic? I love that. Yes. And my doctor went above and beyond to do everything that we could within the limits of what the VA allowed, and to be able to experience that kind of care. It lets me know that, this is extremely situational. It's extremely up to the person, the provider. And that's not okay. It's not good okay for those that receive that, but it's not okay. It should be the same across the board, and it's just not.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I can tell you from experience in Alabama, of all places. You have to be very strategic about it. Okay. So, and you have to be proactive for your own healthcare. That's the biggest thing. And if you know you're going to be having surgery in 6 months or whenever, then when you go to your VA, you tell them, hey, look, you let them know I've got surgery coming on this date. Can you go ahead and start planning for all of the lubricants and all the other kind of stuff that you might need? Go ahead and get that in the system. Go ahead and get it all figured out what you might need afterward. Work with your providers at VA and your doctors and all of that going into it. Everything. You work with all of them. You should be very strategic about it. And then you make a plan afterward with the VA, which is exactly what I did. Mm-hmm. I actually went through and said, hey, look, I'm going to be having surgery on this date. I want to make sure I've got a gynecologist and psychologist and endocrinologist and all these people lined up after surgery. Mm-hmm. And I did. I scheduled appointments after the surgery so that they would all be on board. And they all knew what was coming. So that's a large part of it, too, is that you've got to be really proactive. Yes, there are VAs all across the country that are all doing things differently. And that's for sure. That's what we're trying to work on.
But they can still be held accountable to the directive, because the directive is a national directive. It's not a per facility directive. And that is 1341-2.
100%. Heather, I'd love to hear about your experience.
For me, I did have some post-operative issues, and the doctor was initially hesitant, and I'm just looking at them like, are you kidding me? I'm like, you're not performing the confirmation surgery. You're currently dealing with a patient in need of care right now. Mm-hmm. So you just need to shut up and do your job, or I will go and talk to the patient advocate again, and no one will like me some more, and I'm fine with that. But you're going to do this job because this is your job. And they were kind of like, okay, okay. And, I just basically was like, you're not doing the surgery. So technically you are completely within this. helping to deal with a patient presenting a current issue, which just happens to be post-surgical care, means you're dealing with a patient with this issue, not dealing with that, giving them that surgery. And I'm like, come on, guys, this is not rocket science.
Right.
And the fact that it really is, like Avalisa says, so situational. It's whatever VA you're at, and whatever the directors of that hospital system believe, and then it's individual nurses, and so that needs to be standardized. So it's like, if a patient comes, deal with the patient, not, oh, get out because we're not supposed to do this.
We got a comment from Cece, and I do want to put it on screen and read it. My nurse practitioner told me she hates them sending people of your community. I asked, what do you mean? And she said trans and gay people. She refused to touch me and made her trainee go into the room with me and report back to her. So 2 years later, she got terminated from the VA, and I found out they have an entire website dedicated to her treatment veterans. When I went to West LA, I was treated with dignity and respect, but was told that the VA is really not equipped to deal with trans people.
And that's where the problem lies, is that they are seeing trans people as somebody different.
Right.
And, our organs and our medical issues are the same, right? Cardiac issues are cardiac issues. It doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, or transgender. The issues are there, and the treatment still is required. And that's one of the reasons why the National LGBT VBC office does not quite support transgender clinics, because they feel that any provider should be able to deal with any medical, not necessarily emergency, but issue. And because of those issues, like CC is saying, is why a lot of us are saying, no, we do need transgender clinics throughout the nation, right? So everybody, Mike, I see your comment. Everybody has somebody to answer to.
Yeah. Right.
I think I had a shower thought earlier, and it kind of caught me off guard that we haven't been saying this the entire time. I think people get so wrapped up in this being something new, this being something extra. And we hear it all the time. You just want special treatment and all of these other crazy things. And I think what it all boils down to is all veterans deserve medically necessary care. All veterans deserve medically necessary care. It's up to the provider to decide what is medically necessary, but all veterans deserve medically necessary care. And I think, like, just the thought of that, I was like, that's the easiest way to put it.
I think a lot of it is they think there is a finite, limited source of care available from the VA, which I don't believe. I mean, it's not pie. You can, you get as much care as the provider is able to give you. And I think some of these doctors were initially scared, but like the big memorandum in 2011 saying everything but surgery. I mean, that means everything but surgery. Everything. And my stance on it, my interpretation was, you're not going to cut on me. That's fine. Outside of cutting on me to give me the GCS, you do everything else. That seems like a very easy interpretation based off of the language of that memorandum in 2011. And I did get into fights with people. I always won because I had the memorandum in my hand. I'm like going, guys, it literally says this right here. And, Micah, yeah. Is there a way to get an appointment with the boss? No open door policy at the VA. I have actually done this. I have gone to the patient advocate when the patient advocate could not get me in to see the boss, I walked to the office. You wouldn't believe how fast that secretary was able to fix my problem, because the last thing she wanted was me to bother her boss. And I'm like, it's not like I have a concern that is not necessary. I'm trying to go through the chain of command that you guys have established. You guys have left me no recourse. If you don't have an open door policy, that's fine. I can turn a doorknob as well as anyone else. And, granted, not everyone is just whatever the consequences as I am. But, going to the secretary of the hospital director and saying, I need an appointment with this person is exactly all you do. You just go, you stand there, and if they won't give it to you, you stand there until they give you that.
So I would also recommend that that if you've already talked to your VCC and you don't feel you're getting anywhere, because technically your VCC is acting as your patient advocate. At least that's how I saw my role, is that I was the patient advocate, right? Because they can take it up, and if you're not getting anything through them directly, you can always escalate it to the national LGBT VCC group.
Right.
That email is listed on the VA website, the national website.
All kinds of ways to
I
address
would
it.
love to. Oh, go ahead, Cassie.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
I was just saying that I would love to invite Dr. Lange back in the room so that we can all just, it feels like it's gotten very conversational at this point, and we're all just kind of griping and talking about the things that affect us in such major ways. And so I would love to bring on Dr. Lange back. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that.
That's awesome. Oh, switching around.
You're sliding.
All right,
slipping.
so let's pop back into the conversation. We did have a question for Dr. Lange up here earlier. I started. There we go.
Yes, that is an excellent question. So the first step is making sure that I get feedback from a number of TAVA people about kind of the content of it, and then also have them all weigh in on what are the areas that may need the most training, what are the things that would benefit from it. And we've talked about the benefit of doing Avalise, I think it was you that mentioned this, is doing like brief little blurbs of training rather than doing like a really long training. That way people can just watch the aspects that they find the most relevant. But we do plan on kind of having some kind of resource available to help with kind of the training aspect. And then my hope also is that there's enough content that's written in there that people find it really user friendly. Kind of just a pick up and go, and really just already kind of highlights and reinforces the natural skills of helping that you all have. So long answer to yes.
And then Liz, we had a comment from Cece.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted.
National what?
Sorry, it's you don't read lips. It's the national LGBTQ plus VCC.
And VCC is Veterans Care Coordinator?
Yes.
Because I just wanted to make sure we all understand the terms, because while the military is good at acronyms,
so is the
sometimes
VA.
And the VA. sometimes you're going to run into something that you're not familiar with. So yeah. Use those VCCs, those Veteran Care Coordinators, because they are there literally to help make your hospital experience better. I I tell all my doctors, don't make me stand on a desk. I will. And there are people in Tennessee who will be like, oh God, it's her. Get her off my desk. And that was just using patient advocates. The VCCs, I think, is a resource I haven't used because thankfully no one's making me have to use it. And,
Oh, I'm using it.
but,
I am using it heavily.
oh yeah, if you've got to.
I was getting I was paying for laser hair removal myself, and then my doctor, my endocrinologist, was like, "Oh, we can cover that," and I was like, "Oh my God, that would be so helpful." And so it took forever to get the call from TriWest to figure out what doctor I was going to and all that other stuff. And she called and she was like, "I have a referral for dermatology," and I was like, "Dermatology?"
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the only thing that I can think of with my skin is hair removal. And I was like, "Is this for hair removal?" And she was like, "Yes, the diagnosis is transsexualism." And I was like, "Uh-oh." So we're saying dirty words. And she was like, "Yes, it's transsexualism." And I was like, "Okay, I mean, if that's how you have to put it in to get it to work, cool, do what you have to." And went about a month where people were refusing to provide care. They were reaching out to providers that they worked with, that they could work with, and these providers were refusing as soon as they heard the diagnosis. And so I was in contact with my VCC, my personal VCC, and I won't name him out, but he knows who he is. I called him today. I talk to him quite often. But I called and I talked to him and I was like, this does not make sense. And so finally they gave me an appointment that was like an hour and a half away, which is a 3-hour drive for a laser appointment, which is like $45, $50. So I was like, this is ridiculous. Found a clinic closer to me, only to have them switch over the appointment to that clinic. Went to that clinic, and got through the nurse talking to me and all of that other stuff. And then she left, and then she came back in and she was like, "I'm sorry, we only do hair removal at our other clinic an hour and a half away. We can't do that here." And I was like, when you transferred over my care to this facility, how is that not a thing if I'm here on a referral for laser hair removal? And so I called and I spoke with my VCC again, and he has been so wonderful. He has been so helpful in this entire process, and we have been marking everything in the way that it happens, because it's not just me who needs hair removal. It's not just me in this area who is going to be using the VA for these services. And so we're seeing what the process is. We're seeing the best way to do the process, and we're trying to make that easier for everybody else. I'm going to scroll back up to a comment that I saw earlier that I do want to put up. There we go.
So, Lauren, have you reached out to Lisa Schumacher? She is your VCC in Bay Pines.
And then I saw this. Yes, apparently that's what they're doing these days. But that appointment was like 3 months ago, and I still have yet to have an appointment. So I don't know. I like to be hopeful and say that it's just my experience, and other people can have amazing experiences with care. Again, one of the things we started talking about at the very beginning is the fact that the care that you receive at one VA may not be the care that you receive at another VA. And so it's difficult, and it's a little crazy, but hopefully it's a lot easier in other places.
And people need to be aware that you can have different bits of care from the same team because of natural personality issues. So you may know several people who see someone and they get amazing care and they rant about how great this doctor is, and you get there and you guys just grate on yourselves like cheese, and it just does not go well at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't necessarily mean the doctor's terrible. It just means you guys are not a good fit. And hopefully a VCC can help you find and adjust to get the right doctor. Because if they're the only, like say, endocrinologist in town, in the VA, you might have to go to community care because of that issue. So, be aware, get information, but be aware that it could be simply something down to just you guys don't make a good fit for, doctor patient.
That's crazy.
I think you're just not having a good experience at all.
Yeah,
I understand though.
That's problematic.
Yeah, that is a huge problem.
That's definitely reach out to the LGBTQ VCC and be like, this is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, because in a lot of ways, what's happening is each of these little VAs is a fief. It's their little fiefdom, and you have the king, at the national VA say this is the rule, and the little fiefs go about it how they feel is best fit. So that's just the nature of how managers work. They have their own way of approaching it, their own way of doing it, and if it doesn't quite fit with what you're needing as a patient, then you need to work the system to try and get them to change. And if it doesn't work on the local, you take it past local.
Hey, Micah.
And it's not a no harm, no foul thing. It's just you're trying to take care of your care, and that's paramount. The VA said they were going to take care of us, so make them do their job.
Yeah, it's really hard because you do have so many people, and I talk about it all the time. We are in a space where we have to feel like we are either trans or either veterans, and we can't be the same at the same time. And it's hard. It's hard. But we are veterans. We served. We signed the contract. And so this care that we are receiving is care that we are owed. This is care that we have earned. And for anyone to say, I'm going to put limitations on that care because of how you identify, I'm going to put limitations on that care because you don't look the same as you did when you were born. Like, it's so weird and it's so gross. And so, it's important for us to get the care that we need. And it's also important for us to help people understand that this isn't special care that we're asking for. We're not asking for special things. We're not asking anyone to go above and beyond. We're asking for the same thing everyone else has that we have not been able to experience.
That's exactly the same thing I ran into in Reno when the director asked me in a meeting. He said, how do you explain this narrative that keeps showing up, this perception? And he said, I know this perception is not true, but we were in a meeting with the entire leadership team at Reno. And he said, the perception is that LGBT veterans, trans veterans will suddenly show up on the scene and the VA is bending over backwards to give them care at the exclusion of the care for other veterans. And I, just like Evelisa just said a moment ago, the way I addressed it was, hey, look, we want the care that all veterans have earned on the equity, the same level of care across the board, period. We want that care to be there for all veterans without any kind of identifying things blocking the way. And I said, but if you do want data to back it up or any kind of information to back it up to tell people or give them an idea that this is not true, that perception is inaccurate, well, then TAVA's been around for 19 years. Care for LGBT veterans. I mean, we've been doing this for decades. So yeah, so we run into that kind of perception out there, and it's not just at one VA. It's system wide. He told me it was veterans. He told me it was the staff. That perception was widely perceived, and that they needed some way to dispel it. So yeah, and so that's how you have to do it. You got to say, look, we want the care that every veteran has earned, that all veterans get that care at the same level without regard to any other kind of identifications or intersectionalities or any of that. We just want it all, what everybody's getting, period. Now, Ralph Johnson, Micah, you're saying that's your LGBT coordinator. That's the one at Charleston. Is that who you're talking about, Micah? Because if so, I can certainly reach out to them. Because I don't know the name Ralph Johnson right off, but let me check my contacts, see if I've got a Ralph Johnson name.
Yeah.
Ralph Johnson is the name of the facility.
Oh, it's the Johnson. Oh, it's okay. Facility. All right. Is that the South Carolina one, Charleston, South Carolina? Is that where that is located?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be if you're having issues dealing with the healthcare system, learn the way to address these problems. Part of the thing that, to a degree, some of these leadership people are counting on is the fact that we're all military. We all believe in a chain of command, but most of us also just suck it up and drive on because it is what it is. And so what can we do? It's just the military, right? Well, it's just the VA, right? And so you're just kind of like, rah. And that's it. But that's not how the VA is actually set up. It's set up to have patient advocates to direct issues. It's set up with VCCs to help with you guide your medical process. It's set up with a whole bunch of stuff there to help you work the system. And that's the trick is understanding that it's kind of an amalgam between the military and the private sector. So yes, it's very orderly like the military, and yes, it's got standards and rules. All hospitals do, but some of them are a little bit more persnickety because, to be, face facts, we have to have Congress chime in on our stupid healthcare, which is dumb.
Heather, real quick, our conversation is taking a very VA-centric tone, and I love the conversation, and I do want to continue to have it. But I do want to say thank you to Dr. Tiffany Lange for being here and being able to have this conversation with us. Thank you so much for the peer-to-peer book. Thank you for all of the work that you have done, and I'm so excited to see how not only this helps TAVA, but how this affects our community.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me. The honor is completely my own. Apologies that I had to wrap up before you all concluded your virtual town hall. But thank you for having me during the time that I could attend.
Thank you so
much. Of course. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to your book. It sounds fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
So yeah, Micah, the information I put up there a moment ago about the veteran care, it's actually the Special Emphasis Program Manager at Charleston, South Carolina's VA, the Ralph Johnson VA. That person's name, the Special Emphasis Program Manager for LGBT veterans, is Christy Waters. And
yes,
so
she knows who that is, and she said in the comments that that's the LGBT coordinator.
Okay.
I just rolled over my foot.
Ow. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
Okay.
But yeah, it sucks that our care is politicized. And I think that is one of the main reasons that so many people do refuse to use the VA. I mean, for so many things, if I had the same coverage through TRICARE as I had at the VA, and it's pretty spot on all the way through, like for lots of things, I just would not bother with the VA because of care that I have gotten in the past. And because of the environment and the stigma. Like it's weird. I love that I have the ability to go to the VA when something is wrong. I love that I have that coverage. It is, care that I worked hard for, but at the same time, like in certain situations, it's like, I'd rather not deal with the hassle. And the fact that that's how people feel is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, it really is. So Liz, how can we, let's see, when do you want to meet again? I know we need to bring some people together for you.
Whenever you have time.
Okay, let me check on the calendar. I think you and I talked once. already about that, but I want to check the calendar again just to see what we had talked about. Give me 1 second.
Micah, that's for you.
Okay.
As we are scheduling this meeting, I do want to, if you guys want to talk about it in private chat, we can announce when that meeting is for everyone. As we do get this meeting scheduled, I do want to remind people that, again, we are fighting for medically necessary care. We're not fighting for anything extra. We're not fighting for, anything crazy. Like, there is so much that the VA covers. If the doctor says it's medically necessary, there is so much that the VA covers.
Mhm.
Things that myself, I would say, that's too much. That's too far. Really? The VA is covering that? There's so many things, but if the doctor decides that that's medically necessary, who am I to say it is or it isn't? That's not my place. That's the doctor's place. The doctor is the one who decided what that person needed, what type of care they needed. And so this is the space that we are currently in. As a community, we were told we will do everything for you but surgery. We will not do surgery. That's a step too far. And that limitation, that hard limitation has been extremely harmful to our community. For those of you who are not a part of our community, for those that do need surgery, who surgery is medically necessary for, there are terrible effects of not having that care. Myself, I will openly say that I am pre-operative. I plan on being post-operative, and my gender dysphoria takes me out some days. My depression takes me out some days. My anxiety takes me out some days. I feel physically ill at the fact that this is something that I have to deal with every single day. And so the fact that I am living through life like this with healthcare that says we will cover everything that's medically necessary except the thing that you need, it's very, very hard. And so it's not that we are asking for anything extra. It's not that we are asking for special treatment. We are simply asking for the medically necessary care that is deemed medically necessary. If a doctor says this is medically necessary, we would like to receive that care. If the doctor deems that something is medically necessary for you, we will be the same ones to fight for that care, because if it's medically necessary, you deserve that care. And so that's what we're trying to do. And there's so many places where we need more education. We need more input to understand exactly what's going on. The VA has been offering pre-operative and post-operative care for trans veterans who are getting gender-affirming surgeries. But the thing is they have to understand that entire process. They have to understand everything that somebody needs to be able to give the best type of care that they can, to have a program in place where that care is just ready to go. And right now, instead of us showing up and saying, I need care, I need help, and then being like, what do I know about this thing? What do I know about this one thing that you're talking about? Instead of that, we are trying to be in a place where we are better, where the VA is better equipped to handle these things, just like they handle so many other things. And so that was me ranting and speeching.
That was a great rant. I mean, it was a really good rant.
Instead of us
good
umming and popping around, I felt like it would be a better feel. But yeah, that's what a lot of this conversation is about, Liz.
And that's why I mean, I know that this has to be more of a national thing, but in me doing just my one facility it's minute, but I really want to set the standard. I'm also part of the NOVA group, which is the nurses organization for VA. And I'm actually going to be speaking on this project and the education at a national level with nurses that are part of this group. So I
That's
see
super
this as a
exciting.
need. And I don't want to wait till the surgeries are already being done before staff is trained. This has to happen before.
And the thing is that all information starts in a singular place. It's not, okay, everybody, let's get together. Let's make sure we have everybody on board and we start doing it. It usually starts with one person saying, here's a need, let me work this out. And then it gets adopted everywhere else. And so while, this is just your facility, it has the ability to be adopted everywhere else, to be taught everywhere else. Micah.
Wow, that's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Very.
So Micah, which policy?
I guess Micah's talking about what you're trying to put together.
Okay, so for me, hopefully it'll be policy, right? But right now it's more of a quality improvement or quality of life nursing project. And since nurses are the most abundant employees that there is in the VA, I guess, I hit the right mark, right?
That is a pretty good mark. I mean, yeah, if your standard of care policy, to try and make it better,
Mm-hmm.
and it works really well for your facility, it might be able to go beyond your facility.
I got everything crossed. My fingers, my legs, toes, you name it.
I'll cross things for you as well.
Thank you.
I want us to get this care. I want us to have the care that we deserve. I want everybody to have the care that we deserve.
Well,
in all honesty, and I'm not diminishing it in any way, shape, or form, but it just seems like across the board, certain, not all, but there's just those that providers or not necessarily, I'm not talking about doctors necessarily, but clinicians, whether they are LPNs, nurses, doctors, that make decisions on their own. I don't want to generalize, but even my daughter, who, she's part of the family. And the reason I do everything, Cassie knows, this is why I'm so involved. She was diagnosed with Graves' disease. The Army knew about it 5 years, prior to getting out, and didn't treat it. But all her lab work, the history shows that her thyroid levels were undetectable. And she's at the point now at 26 that she's sterile.
And the military probably could have done something if they had addressed it.
Now she's got heart
in service.
Her resting heart rate is like 120 all the time. And I tried to intervene while I was still there in Tampa, that they needed to just remove that thyroid. And they won't do it because they don't have a surgeon, or they want to just try medication, or they just, and to me, it's just like, but you see her history. She hasn't been treated. Medication is going to do nothing, right? I mean, I have to be, even though I'm an employee and I know what needs to be done, and I know, I still have to advocate.
Yeah. I mean, with my urology care, I had to learn a great deal about kidney stone formation and all this stuff because I've had 30-something year neuroscopies. It's ridiculous. But because of that, I know a lot about kidney stones.
I'm sure.
And so I will grill these doctors mercilessly. And I hunt down articles because I want to stay up to date, because I may very well be on the table again, and I will have the issues again. And if a doctor, like I had one doctor balk once about kidney stones things and says, we're not allowed to deal with any transgendered care. The room temperature dropped about 30 degrees. I'm not sure there was a connection between my restraining myself from strangling them, but I explained carefully how I was like, I want you to explain in small terms how kidney stones is gender affirming care. Slowly now, don't hurt yourself. Oh my God, that guy was gone, like gone. And because I went immediately and complained because
Yeah.
I was like, are you high? Because if they'll say that to me, they will say who knows what to another
Right.
patient.
Right.
And I'm willing to stand toe to toe with the whole building, but some other patient is just going to take it, and their health care will
Yeah.
be impacted
I
because
know.
a stupid person has been allowed to help. You should fix
I
that.
think that's the scariest part is I advocate for myself very hard, very loudly. I advocate for myself, and everyone is not like me. Not everyone's going to speak up for themselves. Not everyone's going to fight for themselves, and we need things to be good for them. They shouldn't have to fight the way that I am
No.
fighting. They shouldn't have to be the strong ones to get what they're supposed to get. But I do want to say that I have absolutely enjoyed this conversation. Liz, thank you so much for joining
You're
us.
welcome.
And again, another thank you to Dr. Tiffany Lange. This conversation is an amazing conversation to have. And I am excited to continue this conversation as far as helping have more input for your research. Cassandra, have you come up with a date for that meeting?
Yeah, no. What I did was I just sent Liz an email so we can actually coordinate to get some
Okay. Perfect.
scheduling set
Okay.
up.
And yeah, keep me in the loop because I've had experiences.
Okay.
Yes, so we will definitely be reaching out to those who have subscribed to our newsletter, and we'll probably send out an email to our members. Please, we're not spamming you. If we send members an email, it's specifically for members. It's usually very member related, but we will send an email to our members just to try and get some input on that conversation. So if you aren't a member of TAVA and you identify as a trans veteran, or you have a trans veteran close to your life, you can always become a member at www.transveteran.org/become. Is that a hyphen? Is the little one across a hyphen?
Yeah.
Is that a member? Become a member with hyphens in between. And you'll automatically get joined into our mailing list, and then you will be privy to when we are having this conversation. Again, thank you so much, Liz, for being here and having these conversations with us.
My
Thank you, Heather.
pleasure.
Thank you, Cassie, for being
Anything I
here.
can do to improve the care, and that's why that my question, it wasn't that question I had to write as to why, what is it that I'm trying to answer,
Right.
what is the problem, or to better care for our transgender veterans, specifically our veterans, since I am a VA nurse. And so that's why I came up with that question. And even my professor, Cassandra, you met her, Dr. Treball.
Yeah.
And so she helped me come up with this question, because I have to say the nursing theories that I want to use. And of course, the model the theory that I'm following is actually by a psychologist, not even a nurse, but Dr. Frankel's theory of meaning. And then Dr. Ray, who is a retired Air Force colonel, her own theory of bureaucratic care. And I'm like, that is just so appropriate, because that's what the VA is, right? So how can I bring the two together? And I'm hoping that I'll be able to do that successfully with your help. I mean, what better person to tell me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What you're looking for, what you need, and how can we as nurses, because let's be honest, most patients trust their nurses more than they trust their doctors.
Yeah.
So how can we help you co-create that space of meaning?
Right. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. I look forward to bringing a bunch of us together to help you further to move this up for
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night, everyone.
All right.
All right. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for being
Good
here.
night, everyone.
Bye-bye.